The WWE draft is just around the corner, and with it comes a plethora of unanswered questions like what champions will be on what show, what superstars will switch brands, what NXT call-ups will be on the main roster, etc. I did already upload my predictions on who I think NXT is going to be drafting from the main roster to go over to Tuesday nights on NXT, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But today we're going to be looking at who I think Monday Night Raw is going to be drafting in this year's draft. So I'm going to be looking at superstars that are currently on NXT and superstars that are currently on SmackDown that I think Raw should bring over to their Monday night show. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's jump into it. Let's start off with the United States champion Logan Paul. I do think that in this year's draft, we should swap championships. We should send over the Intercontinental Champion over to Friday Night SmackDown and have the United States Championship come back to Monday Night Raw. Not only would this be a nice change of scenery, but it would give Logan Paul a bunch of new different faces for him to face off against for that United States Championship. I know that there's still quite a few people on SmackDown that he could still have feuds with, but those people might also come over to Monday Night Raw. But I think the main reason why you want to have somebody like Logan Paul on Monday Night Raw is I think it would be very beneficial for everyone if Logan Paul is part of Monday Night Raw when Monday Night Raw changes over to Netflix. I think the WWE can leverage Logan Paul's mainstream popularity to really help bolster subscription numbers on Netflix and really get people excited for this change from traditional television over to streaming media. Logan Paul is like the personification of new age media, and what better way to bring in a new age of new media in the WWE with the guy that represents new media in Logan Paul. On top of that, we know that Logan Paul is appearing more and more on weekly TV shows, signing a more of a, I guess, of a traditional WWE contract where he's scheduled to appear more often. But right now on SmackDown, with it only being 2 hours, we're still finding gaps in episodes where Logan Paul and the United States Championship isn't being represented in any capacity, and I think that the extra time of Monday Night Raw will allow for Logan Paul and the United States Championship division as a whole to really flourish. But again, I think the value is with Logan Paul being one of those flag bearers for the WWE when they inevitably change to Netflix. He can create hype and excitement around that change through his podcast, through his social media posts, you name it. On top of that, the WWE has none of their shows on Fox by the end of 2024. So you probably might want to start moving away some of these big names away from Fox and onto the networks that are going to be paying your bills for the next several years. And SmackDown is going to be going to the USA Network, which is where Monday Night Raw is right now. And I think that you can continue to keep NBC and the USA Network happy by having people like Logan Paul bolster the ratings of the current version of Monday Night Raw on NBC's USA Network before they go over to Netflix. That way it makes it a nice transition for when SmackDown comes over to the USA Network. I know like this is a lot of like business and a lot of politics, but to me, in my eyes, it makes sense. But more than anything, like the most important reason why you want to have Logan Paul as a viewer is just the new matchups and the new feuds that he could potentially have. I know it's a lot of unknowns right now because we don't know who's going to end up being on Monday Night Raw, but honestly, I'm kind of excited at the prospect of unknowns. Next up, I have Bianca Belair. However, this poses a bit of a tricky situation considering she's kind of in a tag team with Naomi and with Jade Cargill as well. So this would mean separating her from that really new group. And I do think that separating Bianca Belair away from Jade Cargill is going to hurt Jade Cargill because Bianca Belair, let's face it, kind of has to carry Jade Cargill in Jade Cargill's early onset of her WWE main roster career. So maybe this is a package deal where you bring Jade Cargill as well over to Monday Night Raw. But the reason why you would want to bring somebody like Bianca Belair is because Monday Night Raw just lost their biggest name in the women's division in Rhea Ripley's injury. Don't forget that Bianca Belair is like right alongside Rhea Ripley, arguably more popular in the wide scheme of things than Rhea Ripley. So bringing her over to Monday Night Raw really helps fill that void in the women's division that's currently being felt. I really noticed that void in superstardom with Rhea Ripley's injury during that battle royal where really the only superstar in there was Becky Lynch. So supplementing Monday Night Raw with somebody like the EST of WWE, Bianca Belair, is kind of a no-brainer in my opinion, but I understand the hesitation that might exist with her being maybe a package deal with Jade Cargill at the moment. But if they want like really credible contenders for Rhea Ripley in the future, maybe setting up a big Rhea Ripley Bianca Belair match at WrestleMania, you gotta make make the moves early and you got to make the moves now. Rhea Ripley's going to be off screen for a really long time, which makes it easy for you to be able to transition Bianca Belair into Monday Night Raw without having pressure of fans demanding for Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair right away. But we've seen Bianca versus Becky before. It was a banger, so I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that feud rekindle again. But really, I think this is a necessity right now in the landscape of Monday Night Raw, where their women's division kind of is in a bit of shambles, especially when you compare it to SmackDown that seems to have the majority of the star power now that Rhea Ripley is gone. Speaking of star power, this one's just kind of an obvious one, but if you're not going to bring over Bianca Belair, then you should consider bringing over Charlotte Flair over to Monday Night Raw. Not only is this pretty much a foregone conclusion, maybe not as a part of the draft, but when she comes back from injury that she's going to be on Monday Night Raw, maybe not necessarily Monday Night Raw. Like she's gonna be wherever it is that Andrade is. Like, I mean, they're husband and wife. Like, they're gonna travel together. And that seems to be like a universal rule of WWE, where they're pretty good about keeping their couples together so that they don't have any, marital problems. It's really all about the question of, is she ready to come back and when is she ready to come back? Because all of the videos that I'm seeing online of her workouts, she's looking like she's healed like some freaky Wolverine 2008 John Cena levels of regeneration powers. So if she is scheduled to return sooner rather than later, then I think she should be part of the draft, even if, it isn't for a month or a couple of weeks that she's actually set to come back to be an on-screen character or an in-ring performer. But not only is it logical to bring her over to Monday Night Raw if Andrade stays on Monday Night Raw, but also she helps fill the void of Rhea Ripley and sets up that eventual rematch that we all want to see between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. I also personally don't hate the idea of Bianca and Charlotte both coming over to Monday Night Raw, but I really think that at least one of them needs to go over to fill the void of Rhea Ripley. I wish we had more information about how long Rhea Ripley is going to be gone, because they've been really hush about it. So it really creates these scenarios of blind guessing as to when she's going to come back, who she's going to feud with, and who we should use to fill the void when Rhea Ripley is gone.
Look at that guy.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause tonight will be the night. Oh my God.
Up here.
Oh, that is beautiful.
God.
Did you like that? Because that was a sneak preview on Patreon's new show, The Wrestling is Cool Match Club, which is available exclusively to patrons over on patreon.com/SantiZap. Over there, you're gonna get The Wrestling is Cool Match Club, where Sancho and I react to matches that the patrons suggest. This week, you're getting the WLC match, AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle back in the TNA days, and Eddie Guerrero versus Edge from 2002. On top of that, you get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everyone else, the Raw reviews, the SmackDown review, so we're adding more and more value to the Patreon basically every week. That's going to be patreon.com/SantiZap. You'll find the link right at the top of the description or in the pinned comment. Hopefully you come check it out. There's almost 1,000 people over on the Patreon, and this community continues to grow. So hopefully you come check it out. Now back to the video. Next up, let's dive into the NXT pool, and I think that Monday Night Raw should go out and grab Mr. Elia Dragonov, the NXT champion as of the making of this video. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the ex-NXT champion after tonight, when he has a match against Trick Williams, one of the most popular WWE superstars on the planet right now, at NXT Spring Break. And it's a perfect opportunity for him to lose the title, to be fully free of his NXT duties, to come over to the main roster. And all I'm saying is that it looks like Imperium may have just kicked out Giovanni Vinci. Maybe we do a plot where we try to recruit Elia Dragonov into Imperium. I don't know, but I think that there's possibilities of what you can do with Elia Dragonov without the NXT championship on the main roster. The main thing, of course, is banger matches. Like, dude, the amount of amazing separate types of matches that you could have with Elia Dragonov. Like, I'm thinking Elia Dragonov versus Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre versus Gunther, of course, versus Tommaso Ciampa, members of DIY, The Miz. I don't care, man. He will have a great match with just about anyone. He's one of the best performers on the planet right now. And frankly, he's done it all at this point. He really has done everything that needs to be done on NXT, that it would just be a waste if you were to spend another year on NXT. He is ready from a character point of view. He's a really good mic worker. He's very believable in terms of the character that he's portraying. And of course, he's a phenomenal in-ring prospect. I wouldn't even call him a prospect. He's better than most people on the main roster when it comes to in-ring work already. And if Braun Breaker ends up staying over on SmackDown, then I would reason that maybe you want to have the next NXT big megastar be on the opposite brand to really help balance things out. So yeah, let's send over Elia Dragonov to to Monday Night Raw. I'll stick with NXT here, and let's look at Blair Davenport. I think that she fills a massive void across the entire landscape of the WWE main roster, frankly. One of the things that's, in my opinion, really missing from the main roster right now, both on Raw and on SmackDown, is a natural heel. Somebody that doesn't swap between babyface and heel. Somebody that is probably going to be a career heel that could be a legitimate threat for the throne and being a women's world champion. And I think that Blair Davenport can help fill that spot. Because when I look at all of the current heels over on the women's division, they're all women that at any moment could be a babyface, like Io Sky, babyface. She's not really the natural heel. I look at over on Monday Night Raw, yeah, there's like Liv Morgan, Nia Jax I think is a good one, but there's not enough here at the moment, which means that there's plenty of room for a character like Blair Davenport to be able to flourish on the main roster, because there's not too much competition in terms of the character that she portrays. So yeah, let's have this be one of the NXT call-ups, Blair Davenport, Monday Night Raw. Yes, boy! The tag team division right now is stacked, but I think that it is time to refresh the tag team division by having new tag teams face off against each other. The best way to do that is the draft. So let's send over the Yes Boys right now over to Monday Night Raw. I think that they've been great on SmackDown, but I feel like they've hit a ceiling on there already. They've already faced everyone that they could face. Let's send them over to Monday Night Raw and have a great comedic feud with the likes of DIY, which would also involve really great in-ring matches. And imagine a hilarious feud between these guys and Awesome Truth. It would just be legendary. And the fact that the tag titles are actually split up makes tag teams actually more of a viable option to draft in this year's draft. Because in previous years, when the tag titles were stuck on one show, like it would just be a death sentence to get drafted over to Raw where there were no tag titles, or over to SmackDown, depending on where the tag titles were at that moment in time. But now that the titles aren't unified, send them over to Raw and they have an instant division that they can be a big player in and make an impact in. Speaking of people that pretty much have done it all on NXT, even though he hasn't won any titles on NXT, in my eyes, this man has done it all. I think it's time to give Dijak, aka Dominik Dijakovic, aka T-Bar, another chance at the main roster with this new character that he's created for himself ever since the WWE saddled him with a dumb mask and T-Bar. The fact of the matter is that this man doesn't know how to have a bad match. There was a reason why they call him Mr. PLE over in NXT, because every single PLE match that this man has is just an absolute banger, and even just his free for TV matches on NXT are fantastic. It's time to call up Dijak. Like, if you're not going to give him any of the titles from NXT, then you might as well take advantage of him over on the main roster and have him have amazing matches with the amazing crop of talent that's available for him to have bangers with on the main roster. So again, unless your plan is to actually pull the trigger on Dijak and being an NXT champion, then don't waste him on NXT. Let the world see how good he actually is by giving him some time on Monday Night Raw. I mean, they're not using them on SmackDown. They're not using them anywhere. So you might as well bring him over to Monday Night Raw where there's more time and the women are given more time. And that being the Witches, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Now, I know that the women's tag titles are over on SmackDown, but that doesn't seem to matter because they seem to be floating champions anyway. But when you look at Raw, they have more women's tag teams over there as is. They got Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark. They've got the Party Girls in KC2. They've got Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. There's actual tag teams over there that they could have matches with. On SmackDown right now, it's pretty much just the Kabuki Warriors, and if you want to count them, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. So they are far more suited to be on Monday Night Raw than on SmackDown. I don't understand why this change hasn't already happened, unless your plan is just to not use them, release them, or send them down to NXT. Send them to Raw where there's more of an opportunity for them to be utilized. It's just that extra hour of Raw. It gives extra time to these acts that are still developing. Look at Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae getting 5-6 minutes of TV time every single week and making the most of it. And I think you could do that with the Witches here. And I really think that the WWE should take advantage of the fact that they are Scottish and they are going to be at Clash at the Castle in Scotland. You don't have too many Scottish people on the main roster right now. Aside from Drew McIntyre, you might as well bolster them as well to make them an interesting act going into Clash at the Castle. Fellas, I think it's time. I think it's time to let Baron Corbin back into our lives. If you have not been watching NXT, let me tell you that Baron Corbin has completely revitalized his career. He went down to NXT and he has been in a complete renaissance of his character. His in-ring work is so much better and he is ready to come back to the main roster and cook again. Baron Corbin was a played out character on the main roster that had already already hit a ceiling and stayed at that ceiling for so long, and honestly kind of overstayed his welcome. But on NXT, he broke past that ceiling and found a new dimension to his character and even a new dimension to his in-ring work, to the point where this is the Baron Corbin that I want to see being shared with the wider WWE universe. I want you all to experience this new version of Baron Corbin because it is so much better. It's a Baron Corbin that's funny, that's ruthless, that's sympathetic, that's a badass. He's found all of these different emotional aspects of his character, and he's portrayed them so well on TV that it would be a shame to keep him on NXT really at this point. Unless you want to keep him on NXT to develop future stars, like how they used him to help develop Braun Breaker to get him ready for the main roster, then so be it. I think that's a great spot for Baron Corbin as well, but I think that he just has too much to offer, and he's shown that with how great he's developed himself in NXT. He should be welcomed back with open arms by fans of the main roster, and he should come back to Monday Night Raw. And last and certainly not least, we have LA Knight. Yeah, it's time for a change of scenery, folks. It's time to get the megastar off of Friday nights and bring him over to Monday Night Raw. Part of the reason why I think he should get off of Friday Night SmackDown is because Cody Rhodes is on Friday Night SmackDown, and I feel like the two just kind of clash too much in terms of sharing crowd power. I think that you should move LA Knight away from Cody Rhodes, where he has the opportunity to be a top mega babyface as well, because I do feel like his star power has dwindled here in the last couple of weeks. It doesn't seem like there's anything long term for him right now over on SmackDown. It looks like he's lost the feud with AJ Styles. It doesn't look like he's going to be getting a chance at Cody Rhodes. It doesn't look like he's going to be revisiting anything to do with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. So, I mean, if you're at zero, you might as well change sceneries for him and move him over to Monday Night Raw. I know that he could still go after Logan Paul, but if this fantasy booking goes the way that I think it should go, then he can still go after Logan Paul over on Monday Night Raw. But again, at the very least, he'll be away from somebody like Cody Rhodes. That's the very clear and away top babyface. Right now, when it comes to top babyfaces on Monday Night Raw, as it stands at the moment, there's a power vacuum right now that anyone could go in and grab. And I think that person could be LA Knight, but he needs to be on that show in order to be able to grab the brass ring. So folks, give me the megastar over on Monday Night Raw. That's what I want to see. I think it's the best spot for him, and I think it's going to help him flourish even more throughout 2024, because I do feel like he's hit a ceiling on SmackDown. So we need to find some change to help him break past that ceiling, because he's too damn talented to just sit and sway in the same area that he's been in. He needs to be given the opportunity to be able to break out of that ceiling, much like Baron Corbin did over on NXT, so that he can potentially rise to be a main event player on a regular basis, as opposed to a one-off at the Royal Rumble and at Crown Jewel. It all really depends on who ends up going to Raw and SmackDown, but like if I look at the landscape of Raw, somebody like LA Knight could make a big push to become the top babyface there. So let's move LA Knight over to Monday Night Raw. All right, folks, those are my opinions. Let me know what you feel I got wrong. Who do you think deserves that extra bit of time over on Monday Night Raw? Let me know down below. This is a pretty safe comment section, but that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.